Thank you for joining us, and thank you very much to Arlene and James for offering to come and give us this session. We will be having polls at the end of this, so please be prepared for this to be interactive. Welcome to the 4 Modes of Change community webinar for HPCA. I will hand over now to James and Kane, who are James Kane and Arlene Morgan, who are going to give us this wonderful interactive session.
Thank you, Tara. So, welcome to the 4 Modes of Change workshop. Hope you're going to enjoy it. We expect this to last for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have 15 minutes approximately at the end for questions. Of course, if you have any questions as we go along, please put them in the chat and one of us will do our best to answer it for you. We will ask you at the end to fill out some feedback via Menti of your experience of the workshop. You know, we really do want to, you know, make improvements, so it's really valuable to get your feedback on that. Okay. Next slide, please, James. So who are we? We are Arlene Morgan and James Kane. We work in the digital partnering team in the Transformation Directorate at NHS England. We're both APMG change management practitioners, and we've got many years of experience of change management between us in the NHS, mainly to do in the technology and digital field. Next slide, please. So the workshop itself, we will go through the 4 modes, and the 4 modes are to, for, with, and by. So the concept is based on research that was carried out by Cormac Russell, and he's an author and social explorer. And he based this research on the aviation industry to do with safety related changes, but it's something that's relevant across the board. So hopefully at the end of the workshop, you'll be able to explain what the 4 modes are. You'll recognise that these 4 modes of change are active in any organisation, and you'll understand that the modes have their place depending on the change and situation. So please bear this in mind as you approach your change management. Next one, please, James. Okay, so let's start with the first mode, and the first mode is to. So this is where change is done to us without us. And it's the most authoritarian form of change. Change is imposed and it often serves an agenda that we have no sight of. It's a distant agenda. It's often felt as decided without us and to be done to us. It's typical of top-down command and control management. And this type of change is often seen as ill-informed, it's not necessary, and it's unwanted by those who it's been done to. And because of this, it often meets with resistance and resentment. So that was the first mode, to. So in the chat, if you could just put for me, describe how you felt when you experienced change that was done to you. Now, this doesn't have to be work-related. You can just give a few words. Just stick in the chat a time when you felt, you know, from what we've just heard about to, when this was done to me or to your team even. It'd just be interesting to see what sort of responses we get. We've got disappointed, fatigued, distressing, not valued, yeah, absolutely. Felt out of the loop, sad, resentment, confused, disappointed. Lots and lots of negative emotions are coming out here, strong emotions as well. Apathetic, lost control, disempowered, that's a really strong one. Stressed, contribution not valued, confused, yeah, unclear, absolutely, yeah. I can identify with all of those. I've worked in places where change has been done to me without me. Unwanted, yeah, so we've got some words that are repeated there, so you can absolutely see that. Thank you for that. So I've just got an example here, James, the next one. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have an example here where a digital system is being installed. the old system is at the end of life with no choice. It's going to go ahead. You know, it's going to be installed. So regardless of what we think or feel, it's going to happen. We've got other examples here where of the two change modes where imposed changes to working hours take place. You've got changes to reporting structure. You've got imposed shift patterns, and you've got regulatory change such as GDPR. They are all pretty strong examples of when change is done to us without us. Thank you, James. Next one. So the next mode is the for mode. And this is where change is done for us without us. So this is a top-down approach, and the change is imposed but serves as a genuine need. So that there's a little bit of difference there. It is needed, but there is a risk of the change not being embedded. The risk of it not being embedded is because it's done for us without us. So the change is chosen and it's provided for us, but if it's used inappropriately, it can generate disappointment, and that disappointment comes because change it's not what the staff wanted, and it can generate resentment, and that resentment is because senior leaders are seen to be breaking their promises. They may have promised that this wasn't going to happen, but it actually did happen. So again, change is done for us without us. In the chat, again, just a little bit of interaction here. Do you think the emotions will be the same here as the to mode? You can either put a yes or a no, or you can put some different emotions in the chat for me. So we've just gone through the to, we've gone through the for. Do you think the emotions will be the same? Or if you want to shout up, that's fine. That's also. So we've got frustrated, we've got a yes. Yes, depends if you accept the change. We've got lots of yeses coming through. It depends. Could be similar if we don't understand the why. Yeah, frustrated, resigned. Would depend on the context. Yeah, resistant. Depends on changes if they are beneficial or not. Yeah. So there's a slight difference, but you still got those strong emotions coming through. So thank you for sharing that. Not always. I think if the change is a genuine need, this should be explained effectively to avoid negative, absolutely negative response. Right on the money, that one. That was Bolly, I think. Depends on who the winners and losers are in relation to the change. Yeah, that's also a good response as well. So it seems to me that you are understanding these modes, which is really good. So I'm going to move on to an example. James, please. So again, we have a little scenario here where change is being done for you. So the organisation is saying, we've chosen the new digital system and are prepared for end users to be involved via managerial organised feedback meetings. And other examples you can have where changes to software and equipment happen, building refurbishment, feedback meetings organised by management, they've not even included you. And those of you that work in acute trust may know this one, imposed change, such as the falls report, where filling in inpatient information within 24 hours of admission is something that's done for. So these are really good examples of the for mode. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So bringing these two together, these sorts of changes have unintentional consequences. So instead of the people with the relevant expertise and relationships creating and adapting to change, the change goes ahead. James, the next bit. Thank you. So what happens? We have existing expertise and relationships are ignored. You have the people are not trusting those who should be supporting them. Change is done to or done for, and capacity and social capital will be diminished, and the change is not going to be embedded. People are just not going to take it on. We do suggest avoiding the two modes when we implement change, but sometimes it's the only option. We just have to get on with it. But the good news is there is a way of softening the blow, which one of you alluded to in the chat for these two modes. You can put context around it, give the reason why this change has to happen, and share the benefits. And you may bring some people along the change journey with you if you do this. Okay, I'm going to now hand over to James, who's going to take you through the next two modes.
Hi everyone. Okay, so the next mode is the with mode, and this is where change is done for us, with us. So it's a much more participative form of change. Change is done collaboratively and it's recognised as serving a genuine need. It is still essentially from the top down, and it needs permission from management, but also involves staff. So we can see now we're actually giving staff much more of a voice, listening to them, which does feel much better. And the change is often felt as consulted us on what to do with us. It can still fail to embed sustainable change unless the participation approach is well embedded in the organisation instruction and culture. So same as we've done before, how do you feel about the with mode? Enter words in the chat, please, that describe how you felt when you've experienced change that was done with you. Listen to, yeah, engaged, more valued, included, heard, confused, yeah. Yeah, so we've started to get the feeling here that you're being listened to, you've got a voice, you're getting more involved, more engagement. So we're certainly seeing this a bit different now to the other modes, which is much more positive and what we're trying to look for. Okay, thank you. Okay, so some examples of the with mode. So one is changing the behavior and involving a joint approach to the digital installation with management and end user stakeholders. So you can see that that's senior team, instead of telling people what to do and saying this is going to happen anyway, we're actually listening to the people that are actually going to be using the new system. So the end users, get them involved. They're going to be the ones using the new system, new processes. So it's much better to work with them because actually those on the front line, they know a lot of the problems in the organisation and sometimes the solutions as well. So some other examples of the with change mode, it's an appropriate model for organisations trying to bridge the gap between management and staff, different sections of an organisation, IT and the implementation. So one thing you might have heard of before is a change network. So a lot of organisations, when implementing a change, they set up a change network where in order to bridge that gap between the senior team and the front line, they get representatives from across the different areas of the organisation. So, for example, someone from the nursing team, from the admin team, who work with the programme team, and they use them to help communicate with staff, get them involved, listen to them, and facilitate things like process mapping workshops, ways of working workshops. So you can see actually everyone's more involved together now, and people actually get much more chance to get involved, have a say. So it's a much more collaborative way of working. Okay. So the final mode that we're going to go on to now is called the by mode. This is where change is done by us, for us. So it's a much more empowered form of change. So it's going completely opposite to that two mode that we talked about right. And change is done by those who do the work without the need for permission and serves a genuine need. We discover, connect and mobilise assets that are found within people and places at work. So an example of a buy mode is a change of culture with the end user representatives leading the digital system design and configuration. And this can be done with change agents. Change agents are like your subject matter experts who are part of that change network I was talking about just. And for some changes, rather than the senior team driving that, it's actually be driven from the end users who think, actually, in my particular workplace or my team, I can see a big problem here. So I'm actually going to initiate that and get the team to work together to solve that problem and make that change. So it's actually been driven much more from that sort of frontline area than the senior team saying, OK, we need to put this system in place. So other examples of the buy change mode is this change originates from the smaller local level, like I was just talking about, tends to involve relationship building and specific change making efforts. We can then realise, develop and spread these strengths. And this form of change may need a facilitator to help. So that's an important point because actually having all these small changes or being driven by the front line, we still need that facilitation to be able to manage things so that things can keep on track and we can get those outcomes and benefits that we want. So in the chat, if you'd like to just give any examples or words where you feel that a buy mode could be used in a particular change. So in the chat, are there any examples that you can give of maybe where you would use the buy mode? That'd be great. Yeah, empowered and motivated. Yeah, making decisions within a team. So yeah, it's everyone coming together in that team to work, the way forward. Yeah, functional redundancy, development of new processes and procedures, co-production. Yeah. Standard operating procedures, yes, of course. So those new processes will then become those standard operating procedures, which then can feed into the training. So they get involved in that. User-centered design, yeah, that's very important. Development of logs. So yeah, those are some great examples there. Having a site council decide site-related issues, parking and catering, formation of new teams. These are some fantastic examples there. So thank you very much. Okay. So we've looked at the 4 modes of change now. So hopefully with those examples and your contributions now, you can start to understand what those 4 modes are. What I want to do is read out this quite powerful statement by Rosebeth Moss-Cantor, who is a professor of business at Harvard Business School. She pioneered leading by positive change to inspire and motivate people, and she explains why the mode of change we use is so important. So what she said was, when change is done to people, they experience it as violence. When change is done by people, they experience it as liberation. So in the chat, can you just put some words or comments about what you think about this quote? Thank you. Very accurate, yes. Powerful. Yeah, we're seeing here that they think it's powerful. People think it's powerful, very true. Yeah, when you change something, you feel that bit more of control. I know that feeling. Yeah, psychological safety. Oh, yes, some recommended reading there. So yeah, I'll definitely have a look into that. Yeah, it depends whether change result in a perceived loss of power for status. Makes sense and easy to understand by all. Yeah, so some great comments there. And I think most people agree that it is quite a powerful statement. Yeah, violence does seem a strong word. I agree. I know when change is being done to me, I do feel like when someone said to me, right, stop what you're doing today, tomorrow you're going to be on a completely new project, and how do you feel, no one's even opened that consultation and we discussed it. I just feel I go away from the computer and I just scream. It's very loudly. Think what? So yeah, whether you could describe it as violence or whatever word you want to do, there is that sort of natural reaction of what's going on. Why wasn't I consulted and informed?
It's force, isn't it, James? You've been forced into something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's what Rosebeth Moss-Cantor's trying to get across here. Okay, thank you very much for that. Mode sequence. So we did talk about the fact that in some cases, different scenarios, you might have to use a particular mode, and there is a sequence by you can go through on if you're thinking about for my project or implementation, what mode would I use? So whilst all 4 modes of change have their place, there is a sequence by which each should be considered. So it's recommended that you start with what people can do themselves collectively without any outside help. So that's the buy. Then look at what they can do with some outside help. So that's the with. Finally, once these routes have been fully connected and used, decide collectively on what you want to do others to do for you. So that's the for. The reason why you're doing this sequence is it reduces inappropriate dependency on management or outside agencies, particularly if it can be done better in-house. So that's one of the big reasons why you'd go through this. And to bring it to life, I'd like to use an example, and that's the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, and just thinking about an organisation who needed to implement this change, quite a big change. So they'd start with a buy mode. So what can they actually do themselves collectively without any outside help? So GDPR, DPR, let's do it ourselves, let's save some money. But actually, it's such a wide thing, and you might be worried we might miss something. So then you go to the 4 mode where you think, actually, let's get some outside help. Let's get some consultants who've done this on a regular basis, and that might help. But actually, they don't know how the organisation works, the ins and outs, and the nuances. So they might miss something. So the best scenario here is the with mode, where you're looking to do it with some outside help. So you're providing all that local knowledge of your hospital, your organisation, and you've also got that expertise there. So you're working, with each other to do this regulatory change. Right. We've looked at the 4 modes, and we've shown you a bit of sequencing there to show you how you might start to choose which mode is appropriate. I'm going to have a bit of an activity now where we're going to give you some scenarios, and I want you to just put in the chat which of the 4 modes you think is being used in that particular scenario. Okay, so we're just going to start with the first one. So which mode do you think is being used in this particular situation? So the scenario is the organisation wants to improve the theatre safety rates. There is a nationally approved method the exec team want to introduce straight away. So which of the 4 modes do you think is being used in this scenario? So if you just pop it in the chat, that'd be great. Don't worry, get the answer wrong, or it's just a bit of practice really to see how these 4 modes work. So we're getting a lot of 2s there. Lots of 2s. 2s, 4. 2 or 4. 2s and 4s. Okay. So what is the?
It's kind of 50-50, isn't it? With
the
2 and the 4.
It's about 50-50. Okay. So in this particular situation, it's actually a 2 or a 4. It could be either. So essentially here, the approved method is implemented to 2 and 4 us, but it's without any discussion. So we can see, whether you put 2 or 4, you're completely right. So is this going to bring lasting change if we were to do this? So a question to you is, how could we change this from 2 or 4 to maybe become a with or a by mode? So if you just put in the chat, if you can think about maybe how we change this around so it's more of a with or by. Include users in the problem solutions, involving the team, inclusive decision making, ask the theatre team to contribute how the changes can be made, yes. Ask the local experts, that's it, using that expertise locally to actually help implement the change. That's a big part of actually the with. Consulting the team, I'm hearing really good words here. Engaging with the workforce, exactly the sort of things you need to be doing. Super users, champions, advocates, whatever words you want to call for them, those are great. This is really good, isn't it, Arlene? The sort of comments are coming through here. Involving teams and specialists. Ask team to look at the national method and design how they will apply to them. That is pretty much what's in the written answer. So that's perfect. So I don't need to read them out. So yeah, I think you've got that one. Let's go on to the next one. There's 4 of these, so we're going on to the second one now. Let's see how you do here. Which mode is being used in this situation? So due to a large waiting list, the outpatient clinical service manager held a meeting to discuss ways to improve the waiting time. So if you can pop in the chat, which of the 4 modes is being used here?
Oh, we're all on the same page on this one. With.
Yeah, with. Yeah, so I think the with mode, I think you've got it, which is fantastic. Is there a way we could maybe change this into the by mode? Is there any suggestions? ask for suggestions and improvements. Yeah. Get someone on the shop floor, chair the meeting. Yeah, asking someone from the team. So it's more driven by those at the front line. Yeah.
Change network, isn't it?
Yeah.
Type
yeah.
activity.
So you're actually getting those end users to lead, to review, to shape the implementation. So yeah, include patient rep. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so these are all great answers. So thank you for that. So we're just going to go on to the third mode now. Which mode is being used here? The third activity, sorry, it's third scenario. With the implementation of the new EPR system, the IT department have drawn up process maps for that area based on how the system works. So which mode do you think is being used in this particular scenario? What are we getting, Arlene?
We got 4 and 1 by at the moment, so mainly 4s coming through. Yeah, majority 4.
Great. 4, yeah.
And a couple of buys, yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, more 4s. So the answer to this is actually it's a 2 or a 4. The change does not involve end users. Goes back to those change agents and having the correct end user representation. So yeah, they're just, you know, the IT department's gone about the process maps, but actually who knows the process is better than anyone else is actually those end users. Yeah, so how could we maybe change this to become a buy mode? Are there any suggestions? Now the requirements from teams, yeah. Train the users and process mapping, that's right. Including the team. Yeah, those people who would be using the system, that's very important. End users mapping it to and compare, yeah. So we're doing the as is and to be process mapping. Meet with us, yeah, definitely. Work together. Ask the users to help draw up requirements. Task and finish groups with champions, that's very key. Those champions from the team, that's very important. So yeah, change agent, change champions, that's a great way of actually turning it into the buy mode. So again, back to our change networks training, and our team actually, we've talked a lot about change networks. We do provide change network training. So if you're hearing things about change networks, change agents, champions, and you wanted to know more about that, our team can actually help specifically with that. Okay, thanks everybody. We're going to go on to the final scenario now. So number 4 is a group of stakeholders representing the areas have been asked to draw up the requirements of the EPR for the area. So if you just pop in the chat, which of the 4 modes are being used in this particular scenario? Buy, with buy. A lot of buys coming through.
Yeah. Some with and by combinations.
Okay, so the actual answer here is buy, which with is fine as well. Buy is that's the answer because it's been driven by the end users, the representing the area, and they're drawing up the requirements, and they're probably going to be involved in the shaping and design of the particular change in the area for the EPR. So that yeah, that's a buy mode. So I think you've pretty much grasped what's happening there, and I've liked the suggestions where we try to turn it from say a 2 or 4 to a with and buy. There's some great suggestions for the scenarios there, so it's great that you're really grasping these 4 modes of change. So I'm now going to hand back to Arlene, who's going to take you on to the next section. Thank you.
Thanks, James. So how do we achieve the with and by modes of change? Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So there are 6 ways of doing this. The first one is to connect informally. If you build social bonds within groups and teams, you try and do a social event, for example, you get to know people a lot better. When you know people, you start to build those relationships, change is a lot easier. Then we have discover. You can discover and connect existing skills and assets. Typically in the workplace, we'll deal with someone's job title, for example, or their banding. Oh, they're a band 6, they're a band 4. But, if you look behind the banding or the job title, there's a whole skill set that can be discovered and that can be used. So, make use of what you already have, but you need to discover what they are. We then have facilitate. As James mentioned earlier, you can use a facilitator to help to host those conversations. They can bring a lot of people together and they can start to pull out the information that you will need. Get talking, have lots of conversations, learn what people care about, what assets they need. You can't do enough talking in these situations. And then there's the vision, where you can develop a shared vision. Once you get everybody on the same page and everyone knows the direction of travel, change is a lot easier then, because everyone knows, what's expected and what the end goal is, where you're trying to get to. And then celebrate any kind of win or milestone, whether it's large or small. Celebrate it, because you've worked hard to make it happen. So those are the 6 ways, and I'm sure that it's not an exhaustive list that you can use towards the with and the by. And the next one, please, James. So what we've done, we have, and some of you may know this already because you have access, we have developed a change management toolkit, which has lots and lots of tools in it. And what we've done, we've connected some of the tools to these 6 areas, which may help you to get started. It's not an exhaustive list, it's just some examples that we thought would be useful. So for example, the connecting formulae, we've got the engagement and comms strategy and communication surveys tools there. So you can target your audience, if you like, and you can make sure that you get the right comms and engagement going with them. And the surveys, that two-way feedback. So you know exactly, it's going to help you with your change, because you'll be connecting with them in the right way. And it's always really good to get the correct engagement and comms going. So these tools, they're just a reminder really of the toolkit that we have, and just remind you that you can also engage with your organisation liaisons to get in touch with us, and we can help you to use some of these tools or give you further information. We can help to support you on your change journey. The next one, please. So just to let you know that the Change Management Network is available there. It sits on NHS Futures Workspace, and it's available to all organisations across health and care. This is where our toolkit sits. We've reached a milestone of, well, we've got over 1,500 members now, and it's still growing. Some of you are already members, I'm sure. But if you do want to, join up in the chat, hopefully there is a link to the Change Management Toolkit. And it's made for 3 components. The toolkit itself, we've got over 80 tools on there now. We've released version 3. So there's lots of really, really useful tools that you can tap into. We also have a discussion forum. If you have a question you want to pose to other organisations, how did you do this? Did it work? Or even put your shared learning on there. That's a really good forum. And we also have a learning and support section, which we update regularly, that you can use to upskill yourself. So that's a really useful network to join for you and your colleagues. You can share that with your colleagues as well. That would be great. So that is the end of the workshop, and we can have any questions. If you have any questions, you can either put it in the chat or you can raise your hand. So you can either log on to menti.com and put the code in, or you can just copy the QR code and it will take you through just a few questions of how you found the workshop. We really value feedback because obviously we want to do the best that we can on these workshops and improve where we can. So if you can just take a few minutes, that'd be fantastic. If you could fill that out for us. If you enjoyed it, my name's Arlene. If you didn't, that's James. Thank you. It's in the chat as well for you.
Well, thank you both very much for that really useful workshop.